Hi, I'm Denis from Windmill Slam, and I'm here to talk to you about Kaladesh, but in a way that you might not quite be used to. Magic sets are entertainment products like anything else, but for some reason we don't look at them like that. We get caught up in the power level of cards and the prices of things, but we don't look at them in the same way that we review movies or video games. We don't think about the way that Kaladesh or any other Magic set achieves the goals it set out and how satisfactory it is to us as consumers. And while power level and card prices certainly play a role in that, they are just the tip of the iceberg. All Magic sets have goals, and while the primary goal is obviously to sell booster packs, there is much more there. An easy way to look at this is to think of the emotion that the set is trying to evoke in us as players. So if you look at Shadows over Innistrad, the set is trying to evoke a sense of fear, of tension, and an air of mystery.
Some strange force is working on this world, twisting it into a bent reflection of itself.
So what's the appropriate emotion or theme for Kaladesh? And you don't need to look any further than the set's slogan, Invent Your Tomorrow. Kaladesh is about invention and possibilities. When I interviewed Mark Rosewater about the design of the set, he said the gameplay moment he was striving for was that eureka moment. That sense of disparate pieces coming together and being something much greater than their sum. Just last night, I went to a draft, and every single round someone did something ridiculous. One guy cast multiple Cathartic Reunions and used Wildest Dreams to get back all of his best cards. Someone else used Paradoxical Outcome to bounce a bunch of their permanents, replay them, and use that value to win the game. And I personally used Aether Squall Ancient in conjunction with some other energy cards to create a loop where I could bounce all other creatures every turn, all while beating my opponent to death with a giant Sky Whale. The set is full to the brim with that kind of stuff that makes you feel like that crazy inventor, stringing things together and pushing things in ways that they're not necessarily meant to be. It is some of the most fun I've had drafting, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. That's largely due to careful and deliberate design. Lots of the cards that make energy also use energy, so they're self-contained little engines, or they give you the freedom to spend that energy elsewhere or use energy you got elsewhere with them. Fabricate on its surface is a very simple mechanic and one that we've essentially seen before, but it plays into the other things of the set very, very well. Fabricate itself is an enter the battlefield ability, which a lot of cards in the set care about. It makes artifacts, which a lot of cards in the set care about. And it also makes +1/+1 cannon, which cards in the set care about. What we have there is on its surface, very simple to understand, very basic mechanic that feeds all the other much more complex mechanics in the set. And that's just great design. Vehicles are probably my least favorite aspect of the set, and they still function pretty well. They feel like vehicles, they're fun to play, and they present some interesting gameplay decisions. Do I crew this vehicle with my creature? Do I attack with the creature? Do I use them defensively? The power level on some of the vehicles is a little bit questionable. I think the Sky Sovereign's probably a little bit too good. Smuggler's Copter should probably have a crew cost of 2, and Renegade Freighter is probably too good as a common as well. But these are minor individual card gripes, and when you consider the fact that what Wizards has done here is create an entirely new card type, I think they've been more than sufficiently successful with it. Especially when you combine that new card type with an entire new resource for the game, and the fact that we've known about Kaladesh and had expectations about it all the way back since Magic Origins. The art direction in Kaladesh is largely very good. Aether swoops down from the sky and is refined into inventions. So you get this natural flow from wide sweeping strokes to intricate detailed design, and that feels very smooth and very good. A couple of individual pieces of art stray a little close into the uncally, rubbery CGI valley for my liking. But generally speaking, the set feels the way it's supposed to. Just look at a basic land from Kaladesh compared to a basic land from Shadows over Innistrad, and think about how different these make you feel just at a glance. The Kaladesh inventions also offer reimaginings of iconic cards with a detailed, intricate, swirling border that looks great in foil. The art and the story of Magic are often interlinked, and Kaladesh is no different. The storyline of Magic is pretty tightly linked with its art. I found in my experience that players either care about the story quite a lot or don't really care about it at all. But Kaladesh has some stronger story beats than most sets. Chandra, a familiar character, returns home, a home that we've known about for some time from Magic Origins. She's reunited with her mother, who we've actually met before. We find out that her father is dead. Her mother is then confronted by one of Magic's older villains, Tezzeret. He challenges her to a duel, and then he confiscates everyone's inventions to build something more ominous that we don't know anything about yet. The set is also the first time Wizards of the Coast have used story spotlight cards, which are a numbered set of cards that loosely track the beats in the story throughout the set. Presenting a story through a collectible card game is very difficult because Wizards have no control over who opens what cards and in which order. And the story spotlight cards remedy this a little bit, while also giving collectors a nice thing to put together if that's the sort of thing they're interested in. Some people take issue with the Planeswalker Super Squad that is the Gatewatch, but I think it's a perfectly reasonable way to handle a story. Chaining together worlds that are almost by definition completely separate is very difficult, and it's very difficult to keep an audience engaged throughout that. So a host of familiar characters is a totally viable way to do that. Having protagonists that vie for different things and have different values that can clash against each other is very interesting, and people can call them the Justice League all they want, but I think it's very difficult to have a consistent chain to bring you through a variety of worlds in a way that doesn't feel jarring. The performance of the set is a very difficult thing to evaluate, but what I mostly mean by this is how successful a set is at showing itself off in competitive play. If we look at Pro Tour Kaladesh and we look at the top 8, we have vehicle decks, energy decks, and an entire deck built around Aetherworks Marvel. So if you use that as a litmus test, Kaladesh presents itself in its own Pro Tour very well. People are using lots of Kaladesh cards and lots of Kaladesh themes. That tapers down a little bit if you look at all the decks with 24 or more points, where only about 40% of them are heavy on Kaladesh themes, and the rest just have a couple of Kaladesh cards here and there. That being said, that's still a pretty good showing, and Kaladesh had some pretty big boots to fill when Collected Company left, but I think it's done that quite well with a wide variety of decks in an interesting format. In terms of eternal formats like Modern, the set provides Infect with a new trick. It provides Lantern Control with a life gain land that's a tutor in the late game. It gives Dredge Cathartic Reunion to play with, and it has a host of fast lands for the format. And while these don't blow up the meta or introduce some crazy new rogue deck, they are a little bit of spice that is about as much as we can expect from a standard set. Finally, the value of the set monetarily. While, according to TCGplayer's market price, there are only about 6 or 7 cards worth $10 or more in their non-foil versions, the set has been a roller coaster of pricing. Challenger was high, and then she fell, the green Gear Hulk went up, and then he fell down as well, and now the blue Gear Hulk is the most expensive card in the set. Prices tend to stabilize a little bit after the Pro Tour, which is sort of a proving ground for these new cards, but the set has still been very interesting from a financial standpoint. The spanner in the works here is the inventions, which only appear in 1 in 144 booster packs, but are up to $165 in value if you get a Mana Vault. And even the lowest priced one, Champion's Helm, is still around $30. So every pack you crack of Kaladesh has a little spark of excitement in it. While some people aren't fans of the Masterpiece series, which I can totally understand, I quite like them. For now. My concern is Wizards being able to find a new series for each set. So while lands for Zendikar and inventions for Kaladesh make perfect sense, I'm not as excited about a series of foil elves in Return to Lorwyn in a couple years' time. Altogether, Kaladesh really does feel like a home run of a set. It's not without its concerns, but what set is? We had high expectations from the set. It brought back a mechanic E, which people have been talking about for years. It introduces a whole new card type. We had expectations of it from Origins, and it's the home of one of Magic's most iconic characters. When you put all of those things together, it was very easy for the set to fall apart, but not only does Kaladesh stay together, it excels. It's an incredibly fun limited format, it's varied, you can do lots of very interesting things. Standard looks like it's going to be pretty variable too, and it gives Modern a couple of little new tools to play with. I think considering how wrong the whole thing could have gone, considering the amount of risks that Wizards took in this set, they introduced the new Masterpiece series, story spotlight cards, and all the other things I've mentioned, the set really held together very well, and I think that's commendable. I'm looking forward to drafting it for a long time, and I think this might be the first set where I build an actual dedicated standard deck, because Dynaball Tower seems sweet to me. I'm personally very happy with Kaladesh, but if you disagree, please do let us know in the comments. Otherwise, go out and invent your tomorrow.